Here's a copywriting tip for you. I see this happen all the time, where people don't follow this one piece of advice, and what ends up happening is their copy just becomes arduous to read and to get through. I was working with somebody today, and bless their hearts, they started off with a very nice, very clear, very short and concise, hooky piece of copy. But what ended up happening is by the time they showed it to me, it was wordy, it was hard to work with, it was hard to understand. And what ended up happening was it had lost its marketing appeal. Now, nothing against them. They really tried hard. They just didn't follow a very simple principle, and they started doing something that I see people all the time do. So the simple principle is this: keep it simple. And here's how copy becomes not simple. Basically, it becomes complex by doing several things. The first one is trying to answer every question that anyone might have about this particular offer, this particular thing that you're putting out there. The challenge of this is oftentimes it comes from writing by committee, where here's this piece of copy and somebody looks at it and says, "Oh, I get this question all the time." So then that answer gets put into it. And then someone else says, "Well, what about this case? And that gets put into it. And pretty soon what ends up starting out as a simple little 300-word piece of copy is now 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 words, because now we're trying to put every single answer to every single question that anyone might have as they go along. Similar to that is the second piece, which is trying to handle and overcome every objection somebody might have to that particular offer that you've got. When you try to do this, when you try to handle every single objection that comes along, pretty soon it's just slogging through mud to get through it all. And oftentimes what ends up happening is, as you're handling every objection, you actually bring up objections in people's minds they didn't know that they had in the first place. That's the last thing you want to do, is start pointing out to people reasons why they shouldn't buy. You just want to take care of the reasons why that they've got on their mind right now. Next is trying to be perfectly precise. I'll tell you the place where this happens. Actually, I'll tell you two. Number one, when the legal department gets a hold of it, they're going to want to become very precise and it's like, you know what? Legal department, I love you. Let's deal with risks, as opposed to make it so it's perfectly could pass every single thing. The second place this oftentimes happens is people start to define, let's say, for example, you're defining your customer avatar, that the description of the person who might buy your product. And what ends up happening is they end up starting to say, okay, this person lives in a suburb, they drive an Audi, they are 62 years old, they're female, they have 14 grandkids, they like to eat asparagus for dinner. And it's like, wait a minute, that level of precision doesn't help things. The simple question is, this is for women who are overweight who want to lose that weight. Or maybe this is for women who are past menopause who want to lose their extra weight. Those kinds of things. Just keep it simple. Precision most of the time actually hurts you when it comes to copy. Next, when you're trying to attract multiple avatars. So I just described what an avatar is, that target audience, the description of that person. If you're trying to get both the teenager and the teenager's mom and trying to write a single piece of copy that will appeal to both of them, you're probably not going to do very well with that copy. It's certainly not going to be simple. It's going to have to handle all kinds of things to be able to work that way. Do separate pieces of copy for each one, or better yet, do a totally different launch for the teenager versus the teenager's mom. Writing by committee is oftentimes the thing that causes this to happen. The best copy is written by one person, sitting in a room all by themselves. I remember one time where I hired a professional copywriter to come in and write copy for a launch of mine. And actually in the contract, it was stated that I could only change 3 sentences in the entire sales letter. Why? Because that copywriter did not want to get committee written on. So think about that. Give the responsibility to one person who's really good. Let them write it really well and don't nitpick it to death. Think big picture. This is a great place where the 80-20 rule applies. What you want to do is you want to address the 20% of issues that are going to attract 80% of the people. Don't try to address the 80% of issues that are only going to attract the 20%. Most of the cases, individual small specific objections, individual small specific questions are going to have to be answered in a one-on-one situation anyway. That's not copy's job. Copy's job is very simple. This: marketing. It's selling the concept. It's selling the transformation that they're going to get from your product. It's selling. It's not answering every single question that people might have. Please keep your copy simple. Have you ever done this? Have you ever been part of have you ever been subject to a committee trying to rewrite your copy? Have you ever turned your copy into a morass of mud that you just have to wade through to get done? How have you cleaned it up? Oftentimes I find the best way to do it is to get somebody to walk in and say, wait a minute, this is way too complex. How about if we just say this? And oftentimes you can clear a whole page of copy with a headline and 1 sentence. Keep it simple. Let me know your experiences with copy. What has worked for you? What has morassed your copy in the past? Love to hear your experiences. This is Don Crowther saying, just go do this stuff.